Well, good morning, everybody. We'll get started. It's 8 o'clock UK time. Thank you very much for all of you who are joining us today. I appreciate we've got, again, a good spread in terms of locations from, I think, Chile in the west, from those of us here in the UK, through to China and Japan in the east. So I appreciate for some of you, it's obviously the middle of the night, and for some of you it's coming towards the end of the day. So thank you. We'll follow the same format as our previous webinars. We'll assume about half an hour for discussion, maybe a little bit longer, and then we'll focus on Q&A. I have muted all of you so there's no background noise, and I suggest that when we come to the Q&A we use the chat function, and then I will read out the questions as they come through, and a member of the Padworth team will respond. Today's topic is university admissions, perfecting the personal statement and admissions tests. This is the second in a series of webinars that we have been hosting at Padworth, very much focused on helping students, international students, agents, families think through their access to leading universities in the UK, both in terms of the academic side. So one of our previous webinars was on the NC UK International Foundation Year Programme, but also in terms of the UCAS process, the extended project qualification, and today the personal statement. I just wanted to quickly introduce the members of the Padworth team. I think 4 of the 5 of us here are on the webinar today. Myself, one of the directors of Padworth, and also Bishop Stroke College, Lorraine Atkins, our principal, who you'll hear from shortly, Mike Colville, Director of Studies, James Burnett, who's based out in Thailand, focusing on our Southeast Asia recruitment, and Claire McNally, Registrar. As many of you are aware, we started this series of webinars or masterclasses back in May in response to the coronavirus outbreak. We felt it was a good opportunity for us to continue to maintain regular contact with our agents and wider stakeholders at Padworth, but also to share with you hopefully some helpful thinking, insights, thoughts and analysis in relation to a range of topics. As I said, the topics generally focusing on progressing on to leading universities. So today we're focusing on the personal statement aspect of the UCAS application process, and we will also talk a little bit about admissions. I think, as you're all aware, getting into university is competitive. Applicants need to stand out from the crowd. That's true whether they are British applicants or international applicants. And in many cases, particularly when we're talking about the highest ranked universities, often the most popular universities for international students, the Russell Group institutions, there's many candidates applying for the same course, and in many cases they may have similar grades. So what the personal statement provides those candidates is an opportunity for them to shine, to stand out above and beyond their academic qualifications. What we'll focus on today is the key steps required to produce a standout personal statement that enables admissions officers to get to know about the applicant more and to help them think through why they deserve a place at the university and on the course that they're aspiring to. We'll also touch upon the various admissions tests that in some cases you have to take when you're applying to Oxbridge or other institutions in areas such as law, medicine, etc. We've got quite a lot of information on those tests. We'll give you a sort of brief overview and leave the information for you to digest later on. We are recording the webinar and we will share the materials to all of the participants after the event, along with any Q&A that's generated from the discussion. I think hopefully you all had the chance to receive this this challenge as such when I sent out joining instructions a couple of days ago. We felt it would be helpful to make this session a bit more interactive and to give you a bit of homework, quote unquote. The activity was very much around thinking through these 10 statements and making a judgment as to whether these statements were myth or reality in the context of personal statements. Hopefully you've had a chance to at least give that a few minutes of your consideration. Unfortunately, there's no prizes for those of you that get all the answers right, but we will take you through the responses towards the end of the discussion. Some of you have seen this slide before on our previous webinars. It's just a quick recap on the UCAS process and how we see the different aspects of the UCAS process sort of slotting into the schedule for students at Padworth. And in essence, this process kicks off at the beginning of year 12 when students join us. As soon as the second day of their time at Padworth, they are sitting down and starting to talk about the university applications, admissions, aspirations with their tutors, but really kicks off in the spring, typically around February and March, when we ask the students to start researching into courses and universities, when they attend university fairs, when we have guest speakers come to the college. And around about now, May time, we start to engage in the first time in the sort of personal statement process of the UCAS application, and that continues through the autumn. This slide just provides the overall context in terms of the timing, so spring through to the autumn, year 13, in terms of preparing for and then submitting the application to UCAS in the autumn. I'm going to hand over to Lorraine now, who will talk a little bit more about this process with a focus on personal statements, and then she'll take you through the main body of the conversation. So over to you, Lorraine.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see so many of you. As Mark has explained, is the UCAS application process at the moment is going full pelt at Padworth, even though it's online. Currently, students have already undergone a lot of research with their tutors. We have very small tutor groups. The whole idea of having an individual tutor is so that students and staff know each other well, and that they can really choose the right course. What we're looking for is that in 3-4 years after they've left the college, that they've done the right course, they feel ready for the next step in their career or academic life, and that we have supported them with this research. Students apply for open days. They should have been going next week to Reading's open day. Unfortunately, they're currently looking at virtual open days, but in March of year 12, we start this research. They apply for open days. They've already attended the SI UK University Fair, which is specifically aimed at international students. So there's lots of support there for our students who, as you know, a large number of them come from overseas. We encourage students to do more research via the UCAS website, to engage with a student ambassador and alumni from the college who've attended these universities. And as well as that, during the whole academic year, we have a range of career-related talks at the college, and particularly if we can get slightly younger people into talk, we feel that actually the engagement with the students is greater than perhaps maybe someone the same age as me. Okay, and in terms of applying, as we've said, they've already registered with UCAS their interest, so that when they come to we come to September of year 13, they have already expressed their interest. They've filled in some of the details and they're ready to go. With regards to the personal statement, which I'll talk about a little bit more, tutors are already helping them and checking their drafts of personal statements, getting them to develop what reading that they need to do over the summer holidays, so that when we return to college in the autumn, then we are ready to go with the UCAS application. Okay, as I've said, it's really important that the students are well prepared for their personal statement, and it is what we try at Padworth is to provide an all-round holistic education that allows their personal statement to focus on all aspects that we really believe that they should include. And as I've already explained, from sort of February, March of year 12, they will have already started to look at a range of universities. They have, we grade every half term, so that they and their parents are well aware of what predicted grades that they should be achieving in their A levels, and that they apply for a range of universities that are both aspirational, definitely going to get, and maybe an insurance. And we then start looking at the list of what to include, so that, as I said, that they can start to draft their personal statement at this time. The really important thing for a student is that when they initially look at the fact that they have got 4,000 characters and 47 lines in which to write their personal statement, is, oh my goodness, what shall I include? And this is where the drafting process is of fundamental importance to how they attack this. And here we go. Applicants, our students must demonstrate why they are a good candidate and what skills and qualities that they have got that will make them stand out to universities. It is really, really important that students understand that it is the academic interest that they've got in the subject that is what university admissions tutors are really looking for. They have to show why they're interested in that subject, what their enthusiasm for it is, perhaps when that enthusiasm started, and what they might have done academically that will have led to that interest. And in those 4,000 characters, they've got to show also what makes them tick, what is their sort of burning desire, and what we try and do within the Padworth community is to support them on their research and wider reading into a subject. What is it that they've seen, or where have they been that has really, really inspired them to decide that they want to study that subject? Maybe it's been a lecture program they've been on, maybe it's been to a museum or gallery that they've seen a particular thing, and then they've come back and think, yes, I really want to go and study that. And then what reading have they done, whether it is, let's say through The Economist, or have they had a TED talk, what articles have they read that really, really makes them want to go and study that. As well as that, they've got to show the admissions tutors that they are students that the lecturers would like to work with, and have they really investigated that particular area, that is what they really want to study. So what placements have they done, what internships? Currently our year 12s have applied for a variety of virtual internships for this summer. Unfortunately, a lot of the work experience placements that they had applied for are no longer available due to COVID-19, but there are other opportunities available to them. And with the range of clubs and activities that they do at the college, how does that feed into the subject, or how does it feed into what the skills that particular course requires of a student? And this is all part of the UCAS research they do. Go into each university. What are the skills that those particular courses are looking for? How have they developed those skills in their time at Padworth? What leadership opportunities have they taken the most of? As well as perhaps saying where they wish to move on to in the future. What do they want to gain from their university education? What do they see themselves doing? And for our international students, why they want to actually study in the UK, what it is that they need in relation to English language tests. Do they need an IELTS score? Are they applying for the right course? And why do they want to study in the UK rather than anywhere else? It's really good for students to actually think about how they're going to apply for a course by using this grid, the ABC of personal statements. So what activities do they do? What benefits do they get from that? And how does that relate to the course? And in terms of personal achievements, responsibilities, their particular hobbies, what is it that they have done? And what universities really, really are looking for is that evaluation. What benefit have you got from this personally? How have you taken stock of what you've achieved, and how have you used that in the next stage of life career to make you even better at doing what you do? Within achievements, it's really, really good to look at a whole range of achievements, whether it is general extracurricular in terms of activities and clubs that they do within the college, or maybe do outside the college. So it is, are they doing the Duke of Edinburgh Award? The benefits of the Duke of Edinburgh Award are that long-term commitment that students give to, whether it is volunteering or their physical skills, or whichever part of that. Have they taken part in a summer programme? Have they been on a university induction weekend? Maybe they are good at sport. What level of sport have they taken part in, and what do they learn from it? What clubs at school, what musical interests, what skills do they gain from this is a really important thing. Are they a team player? Do they like working as part of a team? And being able to analyse their own personal likes and dislikes will really allow them not only to write their personal statement, but to really look at the courses that are there. And if they really enjoy working with other people, then go for a course that has that level of interaction. What are they particularly proud of, and why are they proud of it? And it's, I cannot emphasize strongly enough, it is that self-evaluation that is crucial when they are doing this, so that they can really sell themselves to universities. And why do all of these range of experiences make them particularly unique and stand out as being the right person for that course? There are some what we call super curricular things, activities that are outside their studies that particularly relate to a particular university course. If they do their research properly, they will see that it is possible to go and do a year 12 summer course at a university, maybe a pre-medicine course, maybe a pre-sort of chemical engineering course. 2 or 3 days at university will give them, one, a flavour of that university. Secondly, they will have an insight to what it's actually like studying that subject. And probably more importantly, they will get to meet admissions tutors who will give them advice on what skills that they really want honed on in that UCAS personal statement. There are other things that are also very, very important to think about. Perhaps a student has a Saturday job or a holiday job. Never ever decry the sort of the benefits of waitressing or working in a shop, because that level of customer care that may be required in that job will relate to most jobs in the future. That attention to detail, trying to make your client happy, has various levels, but those skills that they learn in that Saturday or holiday job cannot be undervalued. Do they help in a family business? What work experience have they done? And how does it relate to the course that they are applying for? That level of communication is really important. The understanding of the time that it takes to go to work, to be at work, to put on that sort of career face, and understand that there are other people in the world besides them is crucial. Okay, and how to write this personal statement after we have got a range of experiences that the student then needs to take forward. Okay, there are, as you can see here, a number of statements that many students write. And UCAS very wisely give lots of advice on what they don't want to see, or what universities don't want to see. The most obvious one is I am currently studying maths biology and whatever. They know what the students' A-level options are because it's on the UCAS form somewhere else. Basically, do not waste those 4,000 characters or 47 lines by repeating any information that is there before. And students who really want to study a subject, they want an in-depth understanding from that student, not since I was a child I've been fascinated by. It's really important that the student can convey in that short block of space just why they are passionate about that particular subject. The same is true of perhaps phrases that they are trying to use to show their interest. Make sure it is really accurate and it is personal to you. And you can see that you know, with law is the glue that holds society together. Biology is all around us. They just need to show why they as a person have that interest and why they're going to do it. Sometimes students try too hard to ask questions. Basically, the admissions tutor wants to know what area has interested them and what extra research they have done in that area. So using glib phrases or quotes is perhaps not the way forward for them. And definitely don't try to be too humorous. Try and retain a very formal tone all the way through, because those students need to be seen as a serious academic who wants to show that they can be logical, they can make clear, concise points in their academic study in the future. And obviously, when they're writing their personal statement, they need to frame it, and they obviously need an introduction and they need a main body and a summary, but within the introduction, they need to say why they are passionate about that course or subject. How does it relate to perhaps what's going on in the outside world at the present moment? I would imagine lots and lots of people who are currently looking to apply for maybe microbiology or some kind of course related to that will be able to use COVID-19 as a good reason why they are passionate about wanting to do those courses. Why are they looking forward to studying something in more depth? That is the essence of why they're showing that they have an inquisitive mind. And then obviously the suitability that they believe that they have for that course. What experience have they got that will help them succeed in that and will help them at university, and what particular in-depth work they may have done about a certain area is what they want to actually study. What they have to be careful of is to make sure that when they have their range of 5 universities that they're applying for, that they don't pick a module that is only in one of their universities and it is in none of the others. They need to be very careful that they write so that it is generic for the 5 courses that they are applying to, because there will be slight differences in all of the 5 courses, and they need to make sure that it's an overarching statement, and not to say, you know, something like, I want to study at Bristol because take out anything that is too specific to one place, unless that's the only place that they are applying. And then it's really, really good for a student to be able to evaluate what they want to gain from their degree, how they're going to use their degree knowledge in the future, and what are their goals in life and to use the university degree to get there. Okay, and finally, some technical details to do with their statement. Okay, it's really, really important that when they write, that they basically test each sentence that they are writing. Every single word is fundamental to that application. They need to justify why they're writing a sentence. Don't waste any characters. If they're going to talk about some research, who are the authors or the academics that they've been reading about, so that they can really show that they have the underpinnings to make a good student for university. Get them to read it aloud, so that they check their grammar, they check that they are writing carefully, and then get them to redraft until they are happy. Very, very important that they ask their subject teachers, particularly those subjects that are related to the course that they're applying for, to check it. Have they missed something out? Have they put enough emphasis perhaps on the research, or have they understood what that particular area of research they've been writing about properly? And the fact that they have to be very enthusiastic about which course they've chosen. What they will not want in the personal statement is a rerun of the A-level syllabus. They don't want any plagiarism. So if their friend is writing a sentence that not a group of friends all use the same sentence, and try, as I've sort of previously alluded to, try not to be a comedian. They're looking for a very serious, formal piece of writing that sells the student to the admissions tutor. Also, don't exaggerate or lie about their achievements. They certainly will be caught out on that. And last but not least, don't get someone to write it for you, because it's highly likely that person that's writing about you doesn't know you well. They could well be plagiarizing, and it may really harm your application. Worse still, the student turns up for an interview and they don't really know what's been written in their personal statement. So when they're asked questions, they have absolutely no idea how to answer them. Okay, as I said, 4,000 characters actually is very little. Students, when they're first told it's 4,000 characters and 47 lines, they think it's an enormous amount to write. It's very little when you actually have to put all of the elements in there that we've just discussed. As I said, don't name a particular university. It's very, very important that they keep it generic so that it sells to all of them. What you don't want is for another university to know you've got your heart set on going to Bristol or Imperial, something like that. And it should focus on the common themes of the courses. It's very, very important that the student gets the right balance in how they write. They must allocate 70 to 80% of their personal statement to course-related detail and their aspirations, and only 20 to 30% about their hobbies or what they like to do in their spare time. What an admissions tutor doesn't want to see is a party animal that's going to spend all their time perhaps playing rugby and not actually come to the lecture hall or to or to the laboratories and do the research that they actually need to justify their degree. What they also have to do is to relate any experience they've got and explain why it is important for that course. So whether it is talking about what particular area of research that they like within their A-level, maybe let's say they were a geographer and they particularly have enjoyed how they can use statistics to really embellish their work, that is what the tutor is looking for. Make lots of copies so that they make sure that they don't lose what they're working on. Make sure that they name each particular version they're working on, so if they've taken something out, they haven't lost it for good. It's those kinds of drafting and redrafting skills that are crucial, and no end of sort of year 12, year 13 students end up in tears because they've lost a version of their personal statement that now they think they want to go back to. And when they're writing their personal statement in Word or Google Docs, it's easier to check and edit, and then it can be pasted straight into their UCAS application form. Where can they go to get more information? The UCAS website itself is absolutely wonderful for them to find out further information about all of these areas. There's the UCAS blog, there's a mind map and video guide. Obviously there are teachers and tutors, but teachers and tutors sometimes are a bit like parents, and teenagers don't always believe the advice that they're being given. It's very, very important that they go on open days at the moment. Universities have been fantastic at setting up virtual open days. We recommend that they go on those. And have they really thought whether this is the place that they want to spend the next 3, 4, 5 years of their life? Can they see themselves being in an inner city environment? Can they see themselves being on a campus? Think carefully about the places rather than, oh, that sounds a good place to go. And it's very, very important that those students actually try and see themselves at that place. Attend university fairs, ask friends and family perhaps who've been there, or think carefully about what distance that they want to be from friends and family. Do they want to connect with someone they know in the UK on a regular basis, but are they 5 hours away? Or do they want to be much closer? Having a knowledge for international students of the geography of the UK is actually important. You know, which airport are they going to fly in? How will they get from that airport to that university? What's the train network like for that? Sometimes looking at the UK on an atlas, in an atlas or on the globe, it makes it look as if everywhere is actually very small, when actually sometimes there are problems in getting from A to B. Look at the course details. Just because it is chemistry or physics doesn't mean to say that every chemistry or physics degree is the same in every university. Is there a specialism of a particular university that they have a passion about? So find out what it is that is included in the course content of all of the years that you're going to study there. How much interaction are you going to get with your tutor in each year group? How often are seminars or tutorials taking place? How many hours a week are you going to study? Each university has a different setup, and it's really important that you know. And also, obviously, agents and guardians are also a good source of information about where to go, and they probably have had students who have been there before. How did that student get on? Can you connect with that student? Can you find out questions? Which hall of residence do you want to go and apply to later on? That type of thing. Okay, as Mark gave you your homework or your preparation before the course, here are the myths and realities that relate and the answers that relate to these myths and realities. I hope that I've covered them as I've been through. No one actually reads a personal statement, so it's not that important. That is a real myth. If there are lots and lots of students applying for courses, a particular course, then of course they want to, it's a differentiator on why you as a student should be admitted to that course. An excellent personal statement makes up for good grades. No, they go hand in hand. You must have good grades and you must have a good personal statement that sells you. It's important to include a subject related topic that you're interested in and analyse it. A definite must. If you want to go for a course, and the more competitive the course, you've really got to show as a student why you should be the student that's given the offer for that course. It's good to list as many different activities that you've been involved in as possible. Myth. What they want to see is commitment. They want to see passion. So rather than sort of pepper spray your interest, choose a few rather than a wide range, and really show the passion that you have for those. You don't need to say you've loved your subject since you were a child. Yes, that's reality. What they want are young people who are mature in their research and have really thought out why they want to do that. Specific details and insights gained are more important than just listing activities. Yeah, very true. They want to know what you've developed, what the student has developed as a person to actually apply properly for that course, and how that can be translated into the course area. You need to show your personality, so focus on hobbies and interests. That is a myth too. The admissions tutors and lecturers, they want people who are committed to studying their particular subject area. It's great that they have hobbies and interests, because we all need downtime and we all need other things that we can bring in. But the of paramount importance for students to remember is they're there to study. Including an impressive quotation helps your personal statement stand out. That is a myth. That quotation has probably been seen many, many times by different admissions tutors and may well be misquoted, may well be misused. What they really want to know is, how did the student study and why they're interested. Don't list your A-level choices. That's true, because they're already there on the form already. It is vital to include that light bulb moment, the one-off personal experience that really made the student want to study that chosen subject. That is a myth too. It is very, very likely, as with us all, that particular interest is not just a one-off experience. It is a long-term commitment to study that subject over time. Okay, admissions tests. Once they've started doing their course research, what's really important for students to understand is that they may well be required, besides their A-levels, besides their EPQ, they may well be required to sit an admissions test, and there are a very wide variety of them. We're going to do an overview in this slide, and there is further information in this that takes each piece and tells you how it's organised, when you sit it, and what you need for it. But just to give you a general overview, for law, you may well be required to do the Cambridge Law Test, obviously if you're applying to Cambridge, or LNAT, which is a national admissions test for law. In maths, there are 3 potential tests that you might wish to do. For medicine, there are at least 4. BMAT and UCAT are probably the most widely known. They are different, all of these tests, in whether they test more like a psychometric test, or whether they are more specific and relate to A-level subjects. And that's where it's really, really important that students do their research and that they prepare. I cannot emphasize the importance of preparation. So we have a number of students, for example, who were applying for medicine in the autumn, and they need to know whether they do a BMAT test or any of the others prior, and then do the right preparation. And so our students applying for medicine are already working, particularly on their BMAT and UCAT tests at the moment. And this is why it's very, very important for students to understand that this is a journey. UCAS is not something that you just start thinking about on September the 1st. In year 13, it is a journey through their sixth form education, so through year 12 and year 13. There are other tests specifically for mainly for Oxford and Cambridge, like TSA, and UCL also use them. Each test, as I said, is slightly different and needs research as to what's required. There is a whole bank of information out there about where you can get the practice papers. There's a lot of information about which are good support guides to help you with your research into the tests.
What we've also included here, and we won't dwell too much longer on this section, but you can segment the tests both by the subject matter, as Lorraine has highlighted, but also those tests that would typically be sat before the application is submitted to through UCAS, which in particular is the LNAT and the UCAT. You can also segment by the location. So, for example, the Cambridge Law Test is actually sat when you go to Cambridge for your interview, and the Thinking Skills Assessment for the University College of London. The applicant has to sit that test during an assessment day, and those assessment days are typically scheduled in December, January, February, or March. Probably importantly, from a logistics point of view, many of the tests, those listed in the middle here, you can actually take at your school or college where the student is studying their A-levels or their foundation programme. The school or college obviously has to be a registered test centre, but that is typically the location where the test will be sat in most cases. We've included here some of the dates, but as Lorraine has indicated, obviously the key message here is to do research and to understand what additional admissions test is required for a specific university or course. What we've also included, and again we won't present the detail now, but for each of the tests that we've highlighted, we provide a little bit of background in terms of which institution is looking for this test, and there's a focus here around typically Oxbridge or some of the top universities rather than sort of the universities per se. We talked a little bit about the arrangements in terms of where the applicant will sit the test and what the sort of typical logistical side of things are, and also the format and assessment. And we provided a link if you're interested to find out further information if the students you're representing or your son or daughter is looking for further information. We've also included, just for reference, an example test. This is an example from the LNAT, the National Admissions Test for Law. Most of these tests consist of various formats, multi-choice and essay-based. There are opportunities through the various websites to get access to past papers, sample questions, etc. And we won't ask you to read this and answer the question now, but you can see that this particular question and this particular test is obviously quite heavy in terms of the English language component, which is obviously important from an international student's perspective if English is a second language. We also have the same information on the maths tests, on the medical tests, and also on the thinking skills assessments. And again, this applies to all of the content that we shared with you today. If there are specific questions that you would like to raise beyond today's webinar, please obviously get in touch with one of us, Lorraine in particular, and we'll obviously be happy to assist as we can. We're going to now turn over to Q&A. We have about 15 minutes left in terms of the allocated time. I think the plan, as I said, is if you've got questions to just put them through the chat function, and we'll read them out as they come through and address them accordingly. So please fire away if there are any questions, and Lorraine, Mike, James will be more than happy to respond. Right, first question from Tatiana. Are breaks between the passages of the personal statement recommended? They decrease the number of symbols one has available, but could make it easier for the admissions officer to read it.
With my students, often I find by the time that we've actually spent time drafting this, to actually just do it as one piece of prose. It looks pretty with the paragraphs. I don't know whether Mike and James, you agree, but I've actually just gone for one piece of prose. Use those 4,000 characters as to your best of your ability, and get as much about you in there that isn't waffle, but really shows what a good student you can be for that university. Mike, James, yeah?
James, you're muted. Bear with me a second.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks, James.
Good. I mean, I think it's worth remembering who actually reads these personal statements, and it's normally an academic professor in the department you're applying for, and it's not their main job. You know, they will be doing their research, they'll be doing their lecturing, and they volunteered to spend a little bit of their time being admissions tutors. So they'll take home a bunch of 100 personal statements to read in the evening, or they'll be looking at them online in the evening, alongside trying to do their other jobs. So that I think the key thing is it's got to be easy to read. The information has got to be easily accessible. So whether that makes putting paragraph breaks or not, the key thing is to think about the person who's reading it and how they're going to be reading it and how many they're going to be reading it at the same time. So it doesn't necessarily need to have breaks in it, but the information has got to be very accessible. There's nothing that's going to put the admissions tutor in more of a bad mood if they're trying to get the information out of the personal statement, because it's not apparent what the student is actually saying.
There was another question that came in earlier. It's not actually related to personal statements, but it's referencing an article that was on the BBC News this morning, and I've just looked up the article, and the title of the article is "Disruption to Schools Could Continue to November, MPs Told." We haven't had a chance to read the article yet, but I think wearing our Padworth hat, our plans are to open as planned in September, and to have students on campus, provided they're able to get to the UK. We're fortunate that we've got plenty of space at Padworth, so easier for us to manage things like social distancing around the campus. Obviously, if you're a state school or you're a school that doesn't have that same luxury, things may be more challenging. But from our perspective, I think the general message over here is that boarding schools will reopen in September as planned, but obviously with restrictions in place in terms of social distancing and the like. Back to personal statements. Any further questions? Now's your opportunity to talk to the experts. Okay. Well, I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Lorraine, for leading the discussion. As I mentioned up front, we will be sharing the materials later on today, and any questions, do please get in touch. But in the meantime, thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of the day, wherever you are, and please stay safe. But thank you for joining us. Monica, are you still there? Monica, are you still there? Monica, I can hear you. I've seen your question, Monica. Can you hear me okay? Lorraine, Monica's asked the question, in a foundation year, how do we adjust the UCAS process? So can we just talk through how things are compressed for someone who's obviously joining us in year 13? We've talked previously, obviously, about how we like them to get started prior to joining us in the summer. Hang on, Lorraine.
怎么了？
Go on, Lorraine.
对，是没问题。麦克风我开着呢，我开着呢。
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. With the foundation year course, they do have to be prepared to run as soon as they arrive at the college. They're also supported very heavily by NC UK. So they will have their school tutor counsellor, and they will have the NC UK counsellors that will be working with them to a very rigid timetable of application. And so those students will condense everything ready to come to the college. If they've applied to us with a big enough time frame, we will obviously be able to help them a little bit before they come, give them some stuff to read. Obviously in their interview we talk about what they think they would like to apply for, so there will be a reasonable level of engagement even before they arrive at the college. And that's very much part of the Padworth way, that that we have small groups and we can really get to know those individuals very well. So they will just have to be ready to run very fast with this, but they will be supported.
Probably also worth adding that the benefits of the NC UK programme is that NC UK also has a team that provides support to the students. So whilst Padworth very much lead on that process, there is some additional support available, which we haven't had the chance to leverage yet because we're only launching the programme in September, but by all accounts that is an additional resource for the students.
Yeah.
Another question from Suki. Suki, I hope you're okay. Is there a recommended exercise book for TSA Part 1? Now, I don't know the answer to that one. I'm not sure whether Lorraine or Mike know, or James, do you have any thoughts to share on that?
There's a book called The Ultimate TSA Guide, which is, I've just got it up on my iPad, by Rohan Agarwal and Jonathan Madigan. I can put the details on the chat, which gets good reviews. I mean, I know a lot of people who use it, but if you go onto Amazon or any online bookseller, you'll see 50 different books about TSA questions. And they're all using the same sort of examples. So in a way, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the key thing is not the practice questions. It's having somebody go through it with the students, help them explain the answers and that sort of thing. But the Ultimate TSA Guide is quite a good book. I've used it in the past. So I'll go onto the chat now and put the name of that book.
Thank you. Any more questions? Sorry, I might have cut people off a bit earlier. I know a few people have dropped off, but any other questions? Thanks, James. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate, again, as I said, you joining us. I hope you found it useful. And we have another webinar in a couple of weeks on the extended project qualification. So hopefully we'll see some of you then again. We will obviously be circulating details in due course. But thank you, everyone, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.